copy is the number one determining factor of whether you're going to get people to buy from you or not. So, like, this is important to pay attention to.
Mhm. Your jewelry brand has so much potential. Are you ready to take it to the next level? The Jewelry Brand Makeover Masterclass will help you pinpoint what's holding your business back and show you how to grow with clarity and confidence. Learn how to attract better customers, position your brand the right way, and create a sales system that actually works. This is a live event and spots are filling up quickly. Head on over to flourishthriveacademy.com/makeover to reserve your seat today. Are you ready to make 2025 your best year yet? Head on over to flourishthriveacademy.com/makeover and I'll see you there. Did you know that one simple tweak to your brand messaging could turn casual shoppers into high quality, high paying, repeat customers who buy from you every season? Well, it's the truth, because whether you're a jewelry designer, a creative entrepreneur, or another small business owner, your brand messaging is the thing that helps create a connection with the desires of what your dream customers want from you and how you can actually serve them. And today on the show, I'm going to help you solve that problem. Hey there, I'm Tracy Matthews. I'm the Chief Visionary Officer of Flourish and Thrive Academy and the host of the Thrive by Design podcast. And I help jewelry business owners launch, grow, and scale and reinvent their brands to 5, 6, and 7 figures. And I'd love to support you on this journey as well. Hey there, I'm Tracy Matthews. I'm the Chief Visionary Officer of Flourish and Thrive Academy and also the host of the Thrive by Design podcast. And I support jewelry business owners and help them launch, grow, and scale successful, thriving 5, 6, and 7-figure brands using my methodology, the desired brand effect. And it all comes down to your brand messaging. So if you're not getting what you want, this episode is going to crush it today. On the show today, I have a copywriting and brand messaging expert named Kachigan. She's going to walk us through how to upgrade and up-level your messaging so that you're creating an emotional connection with your audience, so that you're using it in all of your content creation, and also how to weave this into an SEO strategy and get some market research so you really understand what people want from you. So if you want more jewelry business tips and advice, make sure that you subscribe to our channel and you click that little notification bell so that you are notified every time we release new videos. All right, let's dive into this episode with Kachigan. All right, I am so excited to be here today with my new friend, Kachigan. Megan, thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am really excited to talk to you a little bit more about brand messaging and brand voice. So tell us a little bit about your journey and how you support businesses in developing better content and copy for their business.
Yeah, so I really started as a copywriter. And I feel like at the core of that, like the real deep work of like how to make your copywriting easy is by really knowing your brand messaging inside and out, backwards and forwards. Once you have that messaging down, then writing all of your copy, emails, website, all of the things that you need to continually communicate with your audience, that becomes so much easier and it's so much faster to write those things. Once you have your brand messaging down, you know exactly what your message is and exactly who it's for and who you're talking to.
So what's your approach to kind of dialing this in for a brand?
Yeah, so my approach is research first, like heavy into the research. I think that is like the 80-20 rule, like 80% of it is research, the other 20% just flows right out of that. So we are looking at like your brand core identity. We're looking at posts or emails or episodes that have performed really well. Like we're looking at the data to tell us and inform us, okay, what is working, what is resonating, what is not, making note of those things on a brand messaging, brand voice guide, because we don't want to just have it live up here upstairs in your head, but really have it written down. Like you just see it differently when it's on paper, digital paper or otherwise. And it's so powerful to have this, especially because when it's time to pass this off to a teammate, you like the stuff isn't living in your head. It's already written down. And so you can also delegate so much faster and easier as well when it's the time to do that.
Right. So if you're just kind of, I want to kind of break this, like wind it back because everyone's at a different stage of their journey, right? I'm working with someone, like a couple people right now who are further along in their jewelry business journey. They're, they have multiple, like high multiple six-figure businesses. They're doing awesome, and they've never even done this work before.
Oh,
And
wow.
then I'm working with people who are in the more of the startup phase who are trying to figure out like, who am I talking to? How do I figure this out? And how do I create messaging that actually is going to resonate with them? I don't even know that they're thinking that. What they really want is to be making sales, and they want their website to actually convert customers into sales. So when we're looking at like developing, you talked about a brand voice guide. This is a really important part of what we talk about in the Desired Brand Effect in my book and in our program Laying the Foundation. But in that brand voice guide, when you're first starting out, like what are some hacks? I know you talked about research, but what are some
Yeah.
hacks for people who don't really have a lot of data or anywhere to go to get information about that?
I think one thing that's really important is like, well, who are you in this industry?
Hmm.
Like, what specifically makes you different and you stand out? Because there's a bunch of other like jewelry owners, jewelry businesses out there. Why you over someone else?
Hmm.
And I think, especially at the beginning level, or even at higher levels, as imposter syndrome, creeps on us at all different
Yeah,
levels.
right. This is true.
um, yeah, right. Not new levels, new devils, like same devil, just looks different at the new level. And so, who truly are you and what makes you different? And I'm thinking of a client who was like, well, I don't really know. And it's like, you do know, you do know. And she's like, well, so and so in my industry like does this, but I don't really do that because I'm talking to this particular person and that's not really meant for them. Or like they focus on this part, but like this part is really important to me because
Mhm.
XYZ. And so I don't often recommend go look at your competitors, but don't look at your competitors to copy them or try and take what they're doing and make it you. I don't think that, I mean, that can really only get you so far.
Mhm.
Look at your competitors to then reflect in yourself, okay, how do I do it differently? What
Mhm.
makes me different from them? What's a really important piece of my process that I do that is maybe different from what they do? And use it to kind of jog your memory or just kind of inspire and bring out and draw out the pieces of you, your brand, your process, your style into what you're doing.
Also, maybe like your origin story to really understand like what's the thing that got me to start designing jewelry? Like, why am I interested in bringing this beauty to the world? I learned something really
Yeah.
interesting. So I was, we're new as friends, so we don't know each other that well. But back in 2006, 7, and 8, when I was living in New York City and just moved there, I had this opportunity to be on QVC. And I'd been selling jewelry for a long time, selling to retail stores. And we had to go to this sales training to get basically trained on how to sell on TV. And I was like, I know everything about sales. Like, I'm so good at it. Like, I'm in 350 stores around the world and whatever. But the difference when you're selling to a retail store is the conversation is very different than trying to sell directly to the public. And so when they were educating me and like they're like, oh, okay, so why would someone buy this piece of jewelry? I'm like, because it's lightweight and handmade. Like people really care about that. But the person just looked at me and was like, "No, that's not why." And she's like, "Try again." And we went deeper and deeper and deeper. And the outcome really was like because of the way it makes them feel. Like maybe it makes them
Mhm.
feel sexy or flirty or stylish or like it gives them status. Like there's a lot of different reasons why someone might buy a piece of jewelry, right? But it's not because of necessarily because of the way it looks. It's like their experience with the brand. So one of my next follow-up question for you is when someone's kind of like learning this stuff, they're like, okay, so maybe my jewelry gives someone confidence. Like, do you recommend doing like market research with previous customers or friends and family or anything like that, like interviewing them? And if so, what would you ask them?
Yeah. So I think my first piece before I go and interview people would be to think back to conversations I've already had
Right.
with my ideal client, customer, people in my audience, and like, what are they saying? Not only what are they saying, but what are the specific words that they're using? And to, again, take note and write down the specific language that they use to describe
Yes.
it
Hmm.
because like copywriting is not reinventing the wheel. Like you don't have to be brilliant. You really have to be just pay attention and be a good listener of what are people saying and you're taking that language and using it back in your copy and in your marketing, because that's what they're going to resonate with. You want to say it how they are saying it. And like, yes, you want to be you as well, but it's also a blend of like you being uniquely you and you understanding them and speaking their language. And that often means using the words that they use kind of back to them in their marketing. So think about sales conversations you've had, think about conversations you've just had like in the industry, and make note of those and write those down first. And then I would say second step is yes, setting up interviews, or I like honestly having them be maybe more casual conversations,
Yeah,
because I feel like in an interview, the person feels like they have to like be somebody or,
exactly.
have these like official answers. And you really want just like truly what's on their heart, like friend to friend, kind of more of an answer. You want what they're going to Google, not what they're going to post on Instagram kind of answers.
Yes, that's a
So,
really good way to say it. Like what they're going to Google, what they're concerned about, like some of the things that they're thinking about. And let's face it, like jewelry's not here to like solve the world's peace or hunger problem. It is here to make people feel a certain way and to adorn their body. So like when you like, I think another way to really tap into that, it's like when you're all dressed up or when you're wearing your jewelry, like how do you feel? And it's a great way to kind of tap into that. Now, I'm
mhm.
working recently with a private client of mine, and we're working on, or actually a couple, but this one in particular, we're working on her website copy. And I want to talk specifically about websites because you work with a lot of websites, right?
Yep. Yep.
Let's talk about why website copy is so important because when I was looking at her site, there was like barely any copy on it. There was some copy on the header, nothing on the main part of the website, and then all of it was images. And I'm like, we got to change this because even though you have good sales because people know who you are and they like your jewelry and all those things, we need to call people out. So let's talk a little bit
Mhm.
more about the most important copy on a website. Where should we start?
Oh my gosh, where do we even start? Yes. So copy is the number one determining factor of whether you're going to get people to buy from you or not. So like this is important to pay attention to.
Mhm.
And since jewelry is like a more visual aesthetic kind of a thing, that like yes, you do probably want like good images on there. So that's important. And also the words that you say, especially what we call above the fold, which is like before you have to scroll down on the website, like the very first thing you see when you hit the page, that needs to be convincing enough that like, oh my gosh, I'm in the right spot. This is exactly what I'm looking for. She gets me. This is what I want. This is what I'm aspiring to. This jewelry is going to make me feel this way. That needs to be kind of right there front and center, because otherwise that person is going to bounce. They're not going to scroll down on your page. And then it doesn't matter like how great the rest of your website is if they never scroll down to get there. So that
Right.
very first piece really needs to call out like exactly who you're talking to, and then yeah, kind of give them what they're looking for.
What is your philosophy on about pages? Because that's like one of the top visited pages on a website, isn't it?
Yeah. So, yeah. And I think, especially in today's day and age, like buyers are just more discerning than ever. And I think it matters more like who they buy from. Like they care about who or where they're buying it from. And they want to know you as the business owner. So there's, the thing that like about pages aren't really about you. Like it's still about the customer.
Hmm.
But like, what is it about you that is resonating with the customer? What piece of your story is the customer going to look at and be like, oh my gosh, that is my story too? Or I resonate with that piece of your story, or that feeling that you had when this thing happened to you and now you're doing this. And that like when a piece of your story becomes their story or vice versa, and like you share that piece of
Mm,
like that is so strong. Like that person is going to stay in your world. That person is going to be like one of your
right.
followers, one of your rave-worthy fans, like someone who is going to stay on your email list, like want to be in your world, going to buy stuff for you from you like from the long term. So the about page is a super powerful place to really use your story to connect with other people's story and have that just like human to human connection beyond selling. Like that connection is naturally going to sell for you. You don't have to worry about like
Yeah.
feeling salesy or trying to sell. Like just that connection piece is so, so powerful.
I think what's really important and powerful with that too is I think that we don't realize sometimes how much our personal stories will connect with other people. So
Mm-hmm.
I lost my mom when I was 21, and she, because of her death and like all the circumstances and everything that happened right after that, I ended up taking a jewelry making class. And if it wasn't for that, I probably would have never taken the jewelry making class. I probably would never become a jewelry designer. And then here we are 30 years later. Like, I would
Wow.
have never been on this journey. And it's crazy how sometimes something that might seem insignificant for someone, or it's just part of their journey, how that can connect to other people. And I want to tie this back to my jewelry brand because my custom jewelry brand, when I was doing a lot of heirloom redesigns and engagement rings and wedding bands, the number one thing that helped people connect and want to work with me was because they knew that I understood what it was like to lose a loved one if they were sending me some of their pieces to redesign. And so weaving
Mm.
that into my story, into my maker video and other areas of the website and in my content when I was like super actively doing that, that became sort of a guiding post and a place for people to go when they were feeling like they, well, first and foremost, when they're ready to actually have their piece redesigned, but also just feeling that sense of trust, knowing that I understand what they're going through.
Yeah. And I think that's so important. And I'd be curious, how did you know that you needed to include, or maybe it's just from conversations you had, that piece of your story in there? Because I feel like many people, like if you like rewind to be like more closer to when it happened, you're like, oh, do I really want to share this? It's hard
Yeah.
to maybe rehash. Is this a,
I
like an
didn't share
important
it for,
piece of my story? And I think so often people kind of doubt like pieces of their story. Like, is that worth it? Is that important to share? And then here it's like such a connecting piece for you.
right. Yeah, so when the wound was open, I wasn't able to share it because it was too hard to talk about that. And also, the first couple of years of me designing jewelry and making it and figuring it out were like literally me figuring out, and that story didn't necessarily have as much of a bearing. And mind you, like this was back in the 90s before websites were a thing and selling online was a thing. So that it wasn't as integral of a part of my story until I made a pivot in 2010 and 2012, developing a website where I knew it was going to be a landing page and that, or a page where, or a website where people were going to find what I was doing. And that would be like my main source of referrals and traffic. And I knew that story was important because of everything that I learned about marketing up until that point. Because here's the thing that a lot of people don't think about. When you sell jewelry in person, it's really much easier to connect with people on like a personal interpersonal reaction. And your story is still important at that time and the brand story and stuff like that. But you're connecting on energy. You know, if someone's right in front of there, you could talk to them and have a conversation about like, you know, random stuff like, oh, I love your handbag. Oh, you're so stylish, or like those things. But when you can't see someone and the only thing that you have to connect with them on is the words that you say, the story behind the brand, and you know, your price point, your visuals, and all the things that go into creating a desired jewelry brand, that's like they need to know that up front. And so that messaging becomes so much more important in a virtual setting. And so the more and more you are wanting to sell online, the better you have to become at messaging, which I think is
Mm-hmm.
really important. I know you would agree too.
Yes, yes. And I think it's often so overlooked. And I think especially in this age of AI, it's like, you can just throw it in AI and slap it up on your website. But it's like, if this is such an important, like differentiating
Mhm.
factor and like factor of if someone is going to stay in your world or not, if someone is going to buy from you or not, like your humanity and heart and humor and personality, like that needs to be in there. That needs to be there. And if your website, it's like kind of like your digital storefront.
It is.
So it really needs to represent you and what you're about and what you offer. And like we said, it's not just about selling the jewelry. It's about the confidence, the status, capturing memories, celebrating love, like whatever it is that that jewelry really represents to people.
Hmm. I 1,000% agree. And you brought up AI, and I know it's a huge topic. AI is not my favorite thing for copywriting, although it is getting better if you need help in like kind of getting things a little bit there. So for someone who is kind of learning this and they don't have the funds to invest in a copywriter or something, what's your positioning on AI to get started, like, or get part of the way there?
Yeah. So
It's
I did
hard
a
because
whole
you're a
pod.
copywriter. I know you're like probably
Yeah.
anti.
I mean, I'm not totally against it. I mean, it is a powerful tool. It is here to stay. I think for so many other contexts, like use it, like be smart, save time, use that thing to get yourself out of the minutia and like bigger picture thinking. For copywriting, I have a whole podcast episode on the 8 smart ways that I use it for copywriting, and that does not include a final draft.
Yeah, no. Mm-mm.
So, nope, we can tell. And when people sniff out any little sense of AI, then your trust is like gone completely and your credibility is like, don't risk it. Like, why would you do that?
Mhm.
And I know AI, it feels like it does it faster for you and you don't want to write your website. It's like the last thing you want to do on your to-do list, but it's so important. And so you can use AI to maybe start describing who your ideal client is and ask AI, what are other pain points or
Mhm.
desires or aspirations that this kind of person would have? And maybe you can take some of those ideas that resonate and weave them into your copy. Or maybe you can ask it to say, here are my goals with my website. Can you write an outline or a template of, maybe just a structure of what this needs to look like? And then you can kind of fill in the details from there in your own words with your own heart and humanity and all of that in there, because it really does need to come from you. I mean, you could have AI do it, but then like, is it going to convert? Like, is it going to work? What
Mhm.
I've been noticing is like, yes, it's faster, quote unquote, to write it. But then in the long run, like, actually, no, it's not, because if it doesn't work for you and you just have to then like redo it, then what was the point? You just wasted time. So
Yep.
do it, do it right the first time. Use AI as a tool to help you condense data, maybe generate new ideas, use it as a brainstorming buddy. But ultimately, the writing really does need to flow from you to connect and to convert, because marketing, like, ultimately, it's about you, the human, connecting with another human. So why would you outsource human connection to AI, to a robot? It just doesn't make sense. And like,
Exactly.
yeah, the saving time thing, I don't think it actually saves you that much time to like really do it right in a way that it's like actually going to work for you.
I like the idea of using it as a brainstorming buddy or to get you partially the way there. It's interesting because I'm working on this new program and I use AI to like ideate the name and stuff like that. And I think that I came up with the name of the program through it, but it was like 25 iterations of going through it because
Yeah.
the one thing about certain tools like Claude and ChatGPT is that they like to use words like sparkly or like a lot of extra, a lot of extra things that
Mhm.
you wouldn't normally write in a regular sentence. The funny part about it is like I wrote like this just like an outline and a blurb and I was feeding it a lot, but I didn't have time to like really clean it up. So I just copied and pasted what it gave me. And I sent it over to this friend of mine who's helping me with some messaging and she's like, "Did AI completely write this?" And I was like, "Yes, but I haven't had a chance to go through." She's like, "It's fine." But the one thing that did really help me though is I started talking to people who were in, I mean, this is obviously for something different. It's not for necessarily for a jewelry business specifically, but I just started talking to people and I started, as you said, like listening to the words that they said and ask them like, why is this a struggle for you right now or what's going on? And some of the things that came out were really things that I hadn't thought of and also things that AI couldn't get me to because they're not human, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But the one thing I do love AI for is if you have a lot of information or data, or you've taken surveys from customers or things like that, you can literally upload everything to it and say, like, can you give me like a summary of the key words and phrases used or what was mentioned in here and stuff like that. So I think using it as a tool to analyze, I like what you said, analyze and brainstorm, it can be super powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely powerful used in its like appropriate context, like in its right place. But like you said, like you try and do it quickly, you send it to someone and they're like, oh, yeah, I wrote this.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
people know right away. And I think another thing that especially could be important for the jewelry industry is that like ChatGPT is not current up to the last 2 years. So anything that is trending or new, like ChatGPT just doesn't know that yet.
Mm.
And I know some pieces are timeless and classic, but if there's anything trending, like it's just not up to date on that either.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if someone is in the process of giving their jewelry brand a refresh or a makeover and they want to really elevate their brand messaging, are there any additional tips or ideas that you'd want to throw by them?
Okay, so the top things that I feel like I'm always saying to people when I'm auditing websites are highlight your unique positioning, what makes you different. We
Hmm.
talked about that. Sell the emotion, not just the product,
Yes.
not the features, not lightweight, 14 karat gold, like whatever. Like sell the emotion, the confidence, the status, the capturing memories, what you're celebrating. Sell the emotion. Speak to one person. I know
I
you
love
could
this.
help so many people, but the more specifically you talk to that one person who is really a best fit for what you offer, it makes them go, "Oh my gosh, that's me. They're talking right to me. I like wrote that down in my journal. How did they get in my head?" Like when you get that kind of response when they are reading your website or emails or whatever kind of marketing material you have out there, that's when they're like, reading every word, like
Yeah.
can't get enough, wanting everything that you have to offer, like, and that comes from being specific, which I know can be so scary for a lot of people because it feels like you're excluding some people,
Hmm.
but you're really not. The right people are still going to find you. Like I've niched down in copywriting, but I still serve people like who are outside of that niche, even though like it can still be a right fit and like your right people will still find you.
Exactly. I
And
love
then I
it.
guess one other thing that we didn't talk about, oh, telling your brand story. For websites in particular, I would say don't forget to optimize for SEO because we've focused more on like the copywriting side of it, the selling, the telling your brand story, like what's really going to sell. But then how are you going to get people to your website so they can read all this wonderful copy
Yes.
that we've now written? So I would say don't forget to optimize for SEO, use the keywords that your audience is searching for.
I love that. So this is so informative. I want to thank you so much for being here today. Where can everyone find you? And do you have a resource or a download that they can grab?
Yes, I have a free copywriting audit, and you can go to my website, megankachigan.com, and then megankachigan.com/free dash audit, and that will get you to, it just goes over like the top 13 things that I'm finding when I'm constantly auditing people's websites through my copy critique club. What are the number one things that are like constantly coming up? It walks you through this checklist. So as you are either creating your website or emails or whatever it is, or auditing it and like making it better if it's not working as well as you'd like, these are the things that are going to make the biggest difference for you in the smallest amount of time.
I love that. Thank you so much for being here today.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the show today. Make sure that you check out all of Megan's details in the show notes below this video. And if you're someone who's really been struggling with your brand messaging and your marketing, and you're not sure how to create that brand voice and that connection with your dream customers and audience, well, this is your opportunity to upgrade your marketing skills and dive deep into what your customers truly want from you. Enter Laying the Foundation. Laying the Foundation is our signature 12 module program that is designed to help you create desire and demand for your jewelry brand through your brand messaging and all of the assets that you create. This program has helped over 9,000 different jewelry business owners to date, and we are here to serve you. So if you want to hear more about how this program can help you build a 5, 6, or even 7-figure sales machine, head on over to flourishthriveacademy.com/LTF and dive in today. Ciao for now. Before you go, I wanted to share something near and dear to my heart with you. If you're someone who would like to turn your content into a consistent sales machine and profits, listen up. Laying the Foundation is the program that has helped thousands of jewelry business owners just like you to attract high quality, high value, repeat buyers who buy every season. That loyalty is something that we are experts in. So if your sales are stuck and you're posting content that is not making sales and you feel like your marketing efforts are just a waste of time because neither your audience or your email list nor your sales are growing, well, then this is your time to do something different and break out of your rut to make daily sales the norm. If that's you and you're interested in learning more, head on over to flourishthriveacademy.com/LTF. That's flourishthriveacademy.com/LTF and check out the case studies and the Laying the Foundation program for yourself. I promise it will change your life. Let's do this.